At some point, you must face a brutal truth. The old version of you will never build the life you want. That version was shaped by comfort, by approval, by fear of being alone. And as long as you keep dragging him forward, you will stay stuck, no matter how motivated you feel. Stoic philosophy never promised an easy transformation. It promised something harder and more honest. Real rebuilding happens in silence, away from opinions, away from validation, away from the noise that keeps you weak. This is not a video about becoming slightly better. This is about destroying who you were, so you can rebuild yourself from the ground up, alone, with discipline, with clarity. Today, you'll learn the Stoic truths that force a man to shed his old skin and construct a stronger identity without applause, without shortcuts, and without permission. If you're ready to let the old you die, stay with me. And comment this below: I am ready to rebuild. You cannot rebuild yourself while living to please others. Let's start with a truth most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The old version of you was not built by accident. He was shaped, slowly, quietly, by other people's expectations, by what your family wanted you to become, by what society rewarded, by what made you acceptable, normal, and easy to deal with. And over time, you learned a dangerous lesson: that survival comes from approval. You learn to soften your opinions, to delay your instincts, to explain yourself so others would feel comfortable. This is how the old you was trained. Stoicism cuts through this illusion with brutal clarity. A man who lives to be approved is not living, he's negotiating his identity. Marcus Aurelius warned against this exact trap, not by preaching confidence, but by exposing dependency. When your sense of worth depends on how others react to you, you no longer own your life. You are managed by moods, opinions, and social pressure. And here is the hard truth most people don't want to hear: you cannot rebuild yourself while you are still trying to be understood by everyone. Rebuilding requires separation, and separation feels like rejection to the weak mind. This is why most people never change. They want growth without discomfort, transformation without tension, a new identity without losing the old audience. But Stoicism doesn't allow that fantasy. Epictetus was clear: if you want to be free, you must accept that not everyone will like the person you are becoming. That means this: the moment you decide to rebuild yourself, some people will be confused by you, others will resist you, some will criticize you, not because you are wrong, but because your change threatens their comfort. And if that scares you, you're not ready. The old version of you survives by pleasing. The new version survives by principle. Pleasing others keeps you predictable. Principle makes you dangerous in the right way. Look at your past decisions honestly. How many choices were made because they were right? And how many because they were safe? How many times did you stay silent because speaking would disturb the peace? How often did you delay your growth because it would upset someone close to you? This is not kindness. This is fear disguised as morality. Stoicism demands ruthless honesty here. You're not obligated to sacrifice your potential to maintain harmony with people who benefit from you staying small. Approval is a leash, and most people don't even realize they are wearing one. That leash tightens every time you explain yourself unnecessarily, every time you seek validation before acting, every time you ask permission to evolve. Rebuilding yourself requires cutting that leash, not dramatically, not emotionally, but decisively. Silence is your first weapon. Stoic silence is not avoidance, it is withdrawal of dependency. When you stop explaining your choices, something powerful happens. People lose access to your internal world. And that terrifies them, because explanation is how others control you. It gives them a vote. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself, not for applause. He reminded himself daily that he owed the crowd nothing. You don't need to announce your transformation. You don't need to justify your discipline. You don't need to convince anyone that your path makes sense. Your life is not a group project. This is where rebuilding truly begins. In the moment you stop asking, "Will they understand?" and start asking, "Is this aligned with my values?" That shift is violent to the old you, because the old you was built to adapt, to blend, to smooth edges. But the new you is built to stand. Let's be clear, this does not mean disrespect. It means detachment. Stoicism does not teach arrogance, it teaches independence. You can be calm without being compliant. You can be respectful without being controlled. You can love people without letting them dictate your direction. But you must choose. Either you belong to everyone, or you belong to yourself. And belonging to yourself requires solitude. Not isolation from the world, but distance from influence. This is why rebuilding is always lonely at first. When you stop living for approval, conversations change, energy shifts. Some people fade away. This is not loss. This is filtration. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't chase connection. They focused on character, because character is what remains when applause disappears. Now here is the practical discipline. This is where most people fail. For the next 7 days, do not explain your personal decisions unless absolutely necessary. No defending, no over-clarifying, no emotional justifications. If someone questions your choices, respond calmly or not at all. Not to provoke, not to punish, but to retrain your nervous system. You're teaching yourself that your decisions do not require external approval to exist. This will feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is the old you fighting for survival. Let him struggle. Because the man you are becoming does not need permission. He moves quietly. He acts deliberately. He lets results speak. And this is the final truth of this section. Burn it into your mind. If they must understand you for you to move forward, you are not free. Freedom begins when your actions no longer depend on being liked, and rebuilding begins the moment you choose principle over applause. Hold that line, because the old you cannot survive there. Solitude does not break you, it reveals you. Most people say they want to rebuild themselves. What they really want is change without being alone. They want growth with company, healing with distraction, transformation with constant reassurance. Stoicism offers none of that, because solitude is not a side effect of rebuilding. It is the environment where rebuilding happens. This is where most people quit, not because solitude hurts, but because it exposes. When you are alone, there is no audience to perform for, no one to impress, no one to distract you from yourself. And that silence is terrifying to an undisciplined mind. Because in solitude, excuses lose their power. You can no longer blame circumstances. You can no longer hide behind busyness. You can no longer numb yourself with noise. You are left with one thing only, the truth of who you are when no one is watching. This is why people fear being alone. Not because they hate solitude, but because they fear what solitude will reveal. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't seek constant stimulation. They sought clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself in isolation, not to entertain others. He used solitude as a mirror, not to flatter himself, but to confront his weaknesses without mercy. And here is the first truth you must accept. If solitude makes you uncomfortable, it's because your inner structure is weak. Solitude does not create weakness, it exposes it. When the noise is gone, patterns surface. You notice your lack of discipline, your emotional dependence, your compulsive need for validation. In solitude, there is nowhere to escape. This is where most people panic. They rush back to distractions. They reconnect with people they've outgrown. They fill the silence with stimulation, not because it's good for them, but because it's familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar growth. Stoicism rejects this escape. It demands that you stay. Stay with the discomfort. Stay with the boredom. Stay with the self you've been avoiding. Because only then can you see what needs to die. Solitude strips away identities that were built for approval. Without others around, you quickly realize how much of your personality was performative. The jokes, the opinions, the habits. Many of them existed to maintain connection, not integrity. In solitude, those masks fall off, and what remains is not always flattering. You may discover laziness where you claimed ambition, insecurity where you projected confidence, resentment where you believed you were fine. This is not failure, this is diagnosis. And diagnosis is power. You cannot rebuild what you refuse to look at. Stoicism teaches that clarity precedes strength. Before discipline becomes consistent, before identity becomes stable, you must endure a phase of exposure. Solitude is that phase. Not isolation from the world forever, but separation long enough to reset your internal hierarchy. Here is the mistake people make. They treat solitude as punishment. Stoicism treats it as training. Just as muscles break down before they grow, your false self must collapse before a stronger one can form. And collapse requires silence. Think about it. As long as you are constantly engaged, talking, reacting, scrolling, responding, you never fully confront your inner state. You're always stimulated, never centered. Solitude removes stimulation, and when stimulation is gone, your true level of self-mastery becomes obvious. This is why solitude feels heavy at first. You are suddenly carrying weight you've been avoiding, but weight is what builds strength. The Stoics practiced voluntary withdrawal for this reason. They understood that constant social exposure weakens internal authority. Every opinion you absorb competes with your own judgment. Every reaction you manage drains energy that should be invested inward. Solitude cuts off that drain. It forces you to listen. And listening is uncomfortable when you've ignored yourself for years. You begin to hear internal dialogue you don't like. Doubts, regrets, unresolved decisions. Again, this is not harm. This is reckoning, and reckoning is required. Here is a critical distinction. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is dependence unmet. Solitude is dependence removed. Loneliness says, I need others to feel whole. Solitude says, I am responsible for my own stability. Stoicism aligns with the second. The Stoic does not reject people. He refuses to be controlled by the need for them. This is why solitude strengthens. It teaches self-regulation. When no one is there to comfort you, you learn to regulate emotion internally. When no one is watching, you learn whether your discipline is real. When no one praises you, you discover whether your values are intrinsic or borrowed. This is where identity becomes solid. Not in conversation, not in connection, but in quiet repetition of chosen actions. Now let's make this practical. For the next 10 days, you need deliberate solitude. Not complete isolation, but intentional withdrawal. Every day, spend at least 20 minutes with no phone, no music, no input, just you. Sit, walk, write, and observe. Notice what thoughts surface first. Notice what emotions demand distraction. Notice what habits try to reassert control. Do not judge, do not fix immediately. Just observe. Because awareness precedes correction, this practice will feel boring, then uncomfortable, then confrontational. That progression is normal. What you are feeling is resistance. Resistance is the old self protecting its territory. Stay anyway, because on the other side of resistance is clarity, and clarity is lethal to the old you. One more truth you must accept. If you cannot stand being alone with yourself, you are not ready to lead your own life. Leadership begins internally. Before you can command your actions, you must be able to tolerate your own presence. Solitude trains that tolerance. It builds internal authority. It teaches you to sit with discomfort without reaction. And reaction control is the foundation of Stoic strength. Eventually, something shifts. The silence stops feeling empty. It starts feeling stable. You stop reaching outward. You start anchoring inward. And this is when rebuilding accelerates. Because now, decisions are no longer negotiated with emotion. They are issued by principle. You no longer ask, "How do I feel?" You ask, "What must be done?" That question does not require an audience. It requires resolve. This is why solitude is feared. It removes excuses. It removes dependency. It removes illusion. And when illusion dies, what remains is responsibility. Responsibility for your habits. Responsibility for your direction. Responsibility for your character. Most people avoid this their entire lives. You will not. Because rebuilding demands that you see yourself clearly before you reshape yourself deliberately. Remember this line. Solitude doesn't weaken you. It reveals what must be destroyed. And only what is destroyed can be rebuilt correctly. Hold that truth. The next phase depends on it. The old you is sustained by weak habits. Here is the lie that keeps most people trapped. They believe they are stuck because they lack motivation. Stoicism dismantles that illusion immediately. You're not stuck because you lack motivation. You are stuck because your habits are loyal to the old version of you. Motivation is emotional. Habits are structural, and structure always wins. The old you does not survive because you want him to. He survives because your daily actions keep feeding him. Every habit is a vote. Every repetition reinforces identity. If you wake up distracted, scroll before you think, avoid discomfort, delay hard tasks, seek relief instead of progress, you're not having a bad day. You are maintaining an old self. Stoicism is ruthless about this. It does not ask how you feel. It asks what you do consistently. Epictetus made this clear. Character is not built by intention, but by repeated action. You don't drift into a strong identity. You construct it, or you default into weakness. And default behavior always favors comfort. This is why rebuilding cannot be about adding new habits first. That approach fails. You cannot layer strength on top of weakness. You must remove what is undermining you. Rebuilding begins with elimination. The old you is propped up by small behaviors that seem harmless, but quietly erode your authority. Late nights with no purpose, mindless consumption, avoidance of discomfort, inconsistent routines, emotional decision-making. None of these feel catastrophic in isolation, but together they form a system, and systems are hard to escape unless you dismantle them deliberately. Stoicism does not believe in gradual self-deception. It demands confrontation. So here is the uncomfortable truth. You already know which habits are keeping you weak. You don't need more information. You need honesty. The habits that cost you discipline are obvious. You just tolerate them because they offer relief. Relief is the currency of the old self. The new self runs on standards. Standards do not negotiate with moods. They do not wait for energy. They do not require excitement. They operate regardless of internal weather. This is where most people fail. They try to upgrade themselves without changing their baseline. They add a workout, but keep late nights. They set goals, but keep distractions. They want focus, but refuse boredom. That is not rebuilding. That is rearranging furniture in a collapsing house. Stoicism demands demolition, and demolition is uncomfortable. Because habits are not neutral. They are emotional attachments. Some habits exist because they soothe you, others because they distract you, some because they give you identity without effort. When you remove them, you feel exposed. Good. Exposure is part of the process. The Stoics practiced voluntary hardship for this reason. They understood that comfort creates fragility, and fragility creates dependency. Dependency on ease, dependency on stimulation, dependency on escape. The old you is addicted to escape. The new you must learn to tolerate friction. That tolerance is trained through habit removal. Here is the framework you must apply, without exception. First, identify the 5 habits that most directly undermine your discipline. Not the dramatic ones, the daily ones, the ones you repeat without thought. Write them down. Do not justify them. Do not explain context. Just name them. Second, choose one habit to eliminate completely for the next 14 days. Not reduce, not manage. Eliminate. Rebuilding requires decisive action, not moderation. When you half remove a habit, it remains in control. Third, replace the habit with structured discomfort, not entertainment, not a healthy alternative that still distracts. Discomfort. If you remove late-night scrolling, replace it with early rising. If you remove junk input, replace it with focused work. If you remove avoidance, replace it with the hardest task first. This is how identity shifts, not by comfort substitution, but by challenge substitution. The old you collapses when comfort is no longer available. Now understand this clearly. You will feel resistance. Your mind will argue. Your body will protest. Your emotions will negotiate. This is not a sign you're doing something wrong. This is evidence that the habit mattered. Resistance is the signal. If removing a habit feels easy, it wasn't controlling you. If it feels difficult, you've struck the correct nerve. Stoicism teaches that difficulty is diagnostic. The greater the resistance, the more essential the removal. This is why rebuilding must be done alone. If you announce this process, you invite opinions. If you explain it, you dilute its force. If you seek encouragement, you weaken your resolve. Habits are internal contracts. They are enforced in silence. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, waste no time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. The same applies here. Do not discuss discipline, demonstrate it. Do not theorize about change. Execute it. Every day you eliminate a weak habit, you reclaim authority. Authority over your time, authority over your attention, authority over your impulses. This authority compounds, slowly at first, then violently, because habits are leverage. When leverage shifts, everything follows. Here is another truth most people avoid. Your environment is complicit in your habits. If your space enables distraction, your willpower is irrelevant. Stoicism is practical. It does not rely on inner strength alone. It aligns environment with intention. Remove triggers, reduce access, increase friction, make weakness inconvenient. If temptation is one click away, discipline will eventually fail. Structure must protect intention. This is not about becoming extreme. It is about becoming intentional. And intentionality is uncomfortable to those who live reactively. Expect friction, expect boredom. Expect moments where the old you whispers, just this once. That voice is not you. It is residue. Residue from years of comfort-based conditioning. Do not argue with it. Do not suppress it. Outwork it. Repetition kills it. Every day you hold the line, the voice weakens. Eventually, it disappears, and in its place, something unfamiliar emerges. Stability. You begin to trust yourself again, because trust is built through kept promises, not to others, to yourself. This is the core of Stoic rebuilding. You're not becoming more motivated. You are becoming more reliable. Reliable to your standards, reliable to your schedule, reliable to your principles. Reliability is rare. That is why it commands respect, internally first. Now, engrave this principle. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. The old you survives on weak habits. The new you is built by disciplined ones. There is no bridge between the two, only a break. Make it clean, make it quiet, make it permanent, because the man you are becoming cannot coexist with the habits that created the man you were. One must die. Choose deliberately. The next phase depends on it. Discipline built in darkness is the only discipline that lasts. Here is another illusion the old you lived under. That discipline should feel rewarding, that effort deserves recognition, that progress should be visible and acknowledged. Stoicism destroys this expectation completely, because the most important discipline in your life will be practiced where no one sees it. The old you relied on external pressure, deadlines, dead eyes watching, praise, fear of judgment. Remove those, and he collapses. That is why most people fall apart when structure disappears. They behave only when supervised. They act only when observed. They perform, but they do not govern themselves. The Stoic standard is higher. A Stoic trains as if no one is coming to save him, because no one is. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of this constantly, not to motivate, but to anchor. He wrote knowing his words might never be read. He acted knowing his efforts might never be praised. That is the level of discipline required to rebuild. Discipline that depends on visibility is fragile. Discipline that survives invisibility is permanent. This is where rebuilding becomes real. When you do the hard thing without telling anyone, without posting it, without explaining it, without receiving encouragement, just because it must be done. This is why most people never develop true discipline. They confuse motivation with commitment. They confuse routine with resolve. They confuse intensity with consistency. Stoicism cuts through all of that. It asks one question only. Will you do what is required even when it feels pointless? Because at first, it will. Early discipline produces no applause. No visible payoff, no immediate transformation, just repetition, just fatigue, just doubt. And this is where the old you tries to negotiate. He says, why work this hard if no one notices? Why push if there's no guarantee? Why suffer in silence? These questions expose dependency. The new you does not ask them. The new you understands something critical. Discipline is not about results. It is about identity enforcement. Every unseen repetition reinforces who you are becoming. Every time you act without validation, you detach your worth from external reaction. This is how internal authority is built. Stoicism teaches that self-respect is earned privately, not through achievement, but through alignment. Alignment between what you say matters and what you do when no one is watching. Most people talk values. Few live them in solitude. This is why discipline must be ruthless at this stage. Not extreme, but uncompromising. You need at least one daily action that is difficult, is boring, is invisible, and you must do it without exception. No negotiation, no mood check, no delay. This action becomes your anchor. It trains your nervous system to obey principle instead of impulse. Because impulses fluctuate, principles do not. This is the shift from emotional living to governed living. And governed living is freedom. Here is the paradox. The more disciplined you become, the less dramatic your life looks from the outside. You stop explaining, you stop reacting, you stop chasing stimulation. Your life becomes quiet. And quiet lives confuse people raised on noise. They mistake your restraint for weakness, your calm for passivity, your distance for indifference. Let them. Stoicism does not compete for perception. It competes for integrity. You're not here to look strong. You're here to be unbreakable. Unbreakability is forged in repetition, not recognition. Now understand this clearly. Discipline built in public collapses under pressure. Discipline built in darkness compounds under stress, because stress reveals structure. When life applies pressure, only ingrained behavior survives. This is why Stoics train themselves daily, not for ease, but for inevitability. Hardship is not optional, it is scheduled by life. The only question is whether you arrive prepared. The old you avoided preparation because it was lonely. The new you accepts loneliness as part of the contract. You are not being punished by silence. You are being strengthened by it. And here is a critical warning. Do not seek reassurance during this phase. Reassurance weakens resolve. If you constantly ask whether you are doing it right, you outsource authority. Authority must stay internal. Trust the process, not because it feels good, but because it is logically sound. Structure produces identity. Identity produces confidence. Confidence produces calm, not the other way around. This is why Stoicism does not start with belief. It starts with behavior. Act first, feel later. Eventually, something stabilizes. Your mornings become predictable. Your reactions slow. Your decisions sharpen. You stop relying on willpower because structure has taken over. And this is when rebuilding becomes irreversible, because habits backed by discipline are harder to destroy than habits backed by emotion. Now say this to yourself, not as affirmation, but as rule. I do what must be done, even when no one knows. Repeat it every time your mind asks for recognition, because the man who needs to be seen is still dependent, and dependence is weakness. The man who can act unseen owns himself. This is the discipline that rebuilds you, not loudly, not socially, but permanently. The next phase will test whether this discipline can survive pressure. That is where true separation happens, and that is where the old you finally runs out of places to hide. Detachment is the final cut that separates the old you from the new. At some point in this process, discipline alone will not be enough. You can wake up early, you can train hard, you can work in silence, and still feel pulled backward. Not by habits this time, but by attachments. The old you is not only sustained by weak habits, he is sustained by people, environments, and identities that no longer match who you are becoming. Stoicism is uncompromising here. Growth without detachment is illusion. As long as you stay emotionally tied to what shaped your former self, you will keep reverting, no matter how disciplined you are. This is where rebuilding becomes painful, because detachment feels like loss. Not dramatic loss. Quiet loss. Conversations that no longer fit. Environments that feel smaller. Relationships that drain instead of strengthen. You don't always notice it immediately, but your energy does. Stoicism teaches that energy is a signal. If something consistently pulls you out of alignment, it is not neutral. And if you ignore that signal, you choose stagnation. The old you survives through emotional access. Access to your attention, your guilt, your nostalgia, your fear of being misunderstood. This is why detachment is necessary, not as punishment, but as precision. Marcus Aurelius warned himself not to become entangled in what weakens his character. Not everyone deserves proximity, not everyone deserves updates, not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Detachment is not rejection, it is boundary enforcement, and boundaries are the architecture of self-respect. Here is the truth most people avoid. Some people benefit from you staying the same. Your growth threatens the role they assigned you. When you change, you disrupt expectations, and when expectations are disrupted, resistance appears. They may question you, mock you, minimize your effort, or pull you back with familiarity. Not always maliciously, often unconsciously. But the effect is the same. Your progress slows. Stoicism does not demonize people for this. It simply observes reality. People prefer predictable versions of you because predictability feels safe. But safety is not the goal. Strength is, and strength requires separation. This is why detachment must be quiet. If you announce it, you invite negotiation. If you justify it, you reopen access. If you dramatize it, you entangle emotion. Stoic detachment is clean, less explanation, less engagement, less emotional availability, more distance, more selectivity, more internal focus. This is not cruelty, this is hygiene. You do not argue with what contaminates you. You remove exposure. And here is the hardest part. Detachment often means letting go before you fully understand why. Your logic may lag behind your intuition. Your mind may search for permission. Do not wait for perfect clarity. Stoicism trusts patterns over promises. If something consistently weakens your discipline, erodes your focus, or pulls you back into old behavior, it does not belong in your rebuilding phase. This phase is temporary, but critical. You are not cutting ties forever. You are reducing influence while your foundation sets. Think of concrete. If you disturb it while it cures, it never hardens correctly. You are curing. Disturbance now creates cracks later. This is why Stoics valued withdrawal, not escape, but recalibration. They knew that a man cannot redefine himself while constantly negotiating his direction. Now understand this. Detachment will feel empty at first. Your schedule will open up. Your phone will be quieter. Your social world will shrink. This is not a problem. This is space. And space is where identity consolidates. Most people panic here. They rush to fill the emptiness. They reconnect prematurely. They seek stimulation to avoid stillness. That is how rebuilding fails. Stillness is not absence. It is preparation. In stillness, your standards sharpen. You begin to notice what aligns and what doesn't, without interference. Your tolerance for nonsense drops. Your patience for distraction fades. This is growth, and growth often feels like disconnection. Here is a rule you must adopt. If it costs you your discipline, it costs too much. No exceptions, not people, not comfort, not nostalgia. Your rebuilding phase has one priority: structural integrity. Everything else is secondary. This is why Stoicism emphasizes self-command. Because self-command requires freedom from emotional leverage. When others can trigger guilt, urgency, or fear in you, they control your behavior. Detachment removes that leverage, not through confrontation, but through distance. And distance restores choice. Choice is power. Now make this practical. Audit your life honestly. List people who pull you back into old patterns, environments that weaken your focus, activities that drain your discipline. You do not need to confront any of them, just reduce exposure, fewer interactions, shorter conversations, less explanation. This is not avoidance, it is prioritization. Rebuilding requires that your energy goes inward, not outward, and energy is finite. Every unnecessary interaction is a tax. Every emotional explanation is a leak. Seal the system. As you do this, something unexpected happens. Your sense of self stabilizes. You stop oscillating. You stop doubting. You stop reacting. Not because life is easier, but because your structure is stronger. You become less available to chaos, and chaos always looks for availability. This is when people notice, not because you told them, but because your presence changes. You speak less, but with more weight. You move slower, but with certainty. You're no longer pulled. You decide. That is the mark of detachment done correctly. Not isolation, authority. Remember this. You are not abandoning anyone. You are abandoning the version of yourself that required constant access to survive. That version must be left behind. Quietly, without ceremony, without guilt. because the man you are rebuilding cannot be negotiated back into weakness. The next phase will test whether this detachment has truly removed emotional leverage. That test is unavoidable, and if you pass it, the old you will have nowhere left to return. Only then does rebuilding become complete. Pressure is the final test. Weak structure always cracks. Up to this point, rebuilding has happened in controlled conditions. Silence, solitude, discipline, detachment. But now comes the phase you cannot rehearse. Pressure. Because life will not respect your process. It will interrupt it. Unexpected stress, conflict, fatigue, temptation, loss. This is where the old you tries one last return. Not loudly, not obviously. He returns as rationalization. This isn't the right time. I've been doing well, I deserve a break. I can handle this the old way, just once. Stoicism exists for this moment. Because pressure does not create weakness, it reveals structure. If your rebuilding was cosmetic, pressure will expose it. If your discipline depended on ideal conditions, pressure will break it. That is why Stoics trained for adversity, not comfort. They assumed disruption, they assumed resistance, they assumed life would interfere. So they built systems that could survive it. Now understand this clearly. Pressure is not an obstacle to rebuilding. It is the confirmation. When stress hits, watch yourself closely. Do you revert to distraction? Do you seek emotional relief? Do you abandon standards to feel normal again? These reactions are diagnostic. They tell you exactly what is still unresolved. The goal is not to avoid pressure. The goal is to remain governed under pressure. This is where rebuilding becomes permanent. Because once you hold structure through stress, the old you loses credibility. He no longer works. His methods no longer bring relief. And without relief, he fades. Stoicism trains this deliberately by practicing voluntary discomfort, by removing excess comfort, by rehearsing loss mentally. Not to suffer, but to adapt. A man who has rehearsed difficulty is not surprised by it. He does not panic. He does not overreact. He does not abandon himself. He adjusts. This is the posture you are building. Calm under strain, steady under uncertainty, decisive without urgency. Now here is the final discipline you must adopt. When pressure hits, narrow your focus. Do not solve everything. Do not explain anything. Do not react emotionally. Return to fundamentals. Sleep, movement, work, silence. Pressure expands when you chase it. It shrinks when you reduce variables. The old you scattered energy. The new you consolidates it. This is why Stoicism values simplicity. Complexity collapses under stress. Simplicity survives. When life becomes heavy, your response should become smaller, not larger. Fewer words, fewer decisions, fewer interactions, just execution. This is how structure holds. Now expect this. People will test your boundaries under pressure. They will ask more of you. They will provoke reaction. They will sense instability and push, not intentionally, instinctively. Weakness invites pressure. Strength repels it. If you remain calm, if you do not over-explain, if you do not seek sympathy, the test passes, and something important happens. You begin to trust yourself under fire. That trust changes everything, because once you know you can hold the line when it matters most, fear loses leverage. You stop worrying about future stress because you've proven your response. This is Stoic confidence, not bravado, not optimism, reliability under strain. And reliability compounds. Each time pressure fails to break you, your identity hardens. Not emotionally, structurally. You are no longer pretending to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You are no longer trying to be detached. You are detached. The old you has no arguments left. His tools don't work. His shortcuts don't soothe. His reactions don't protect. So he dissolves. Not dramatically, not painfully, quietly, because he is no longer useful. This is how rebuilding completes. Not with a breakthrough moment, but with a pattern that no longer breaks. You don't feel new, you feel stable. And stability is power. Now lock this final rule into place. When pressure rises, tighten structure. Do not loosen it. That one rule will protect everything you've built. Because life will test you again and again. And each time, you will respond the same way. Calm, controlled, unmoved. That is the end of the old you, and the beginning of someone who cannot be pulled back. Only then are you truly rebuilt. Rebuilding is complete when you no longer need a narrative. There is one final attachment the old you clings to longer than all the others. Not habits, not people, not comfort. A story, the need to explain who you are. Becoming, the need to frame your struggle, the need to justify your change. As long as you need a narrative, you are still seeking permission. Stoicism ends this, because the strongest identity is the one that requires no explanation. Early in rebuilding, you needed structure, then discipline, then detachment, then pressure testing. Now comes the last cut, silence without tension. No urge to prove, no desire to be seen as changed, no need to correct misunderstandings. You simply are. This is where most people never arrive. They rebuild partially, but keep narrating their evolution. They want recognition for restraint, credit for discipline, understanding for distance. That keeps them tethered. The Stoic lets the narrative die. Marcus Aurelius did not explain himself to Rome. He aligned himself internally and let history decide. That is the posture you are adopting now. You stop correcting perceptions. You stop clarifying intentions. You stop defending choices. Not because you are bitter, but because you are settled. Settlement is different from confidence. Confidence still reacts. Settlement does not. You know who you are because your behavior is consistent. Consistency removes doubt, and without doubt, explanation becomes unnecessary. This is the moment rebuilding locks in, because the old you lived through reaction. Reaction to praise, reaction to criticism, reaction to misunderstanding. The new you does not. You respond only when response aligns with principle. Everything else is ignored, not emotionally, strategically. This is what true self-command looks like. Your internal state is no longer affected by external noise. You don't suppress emotion, you regulate it. You don't avoid people. You choose proximity. You don't chase outcomes, you execute process. This is Stoicism embodied, not as philosophy, but as operating system. Now look back. The old you required momentum to function. The new you requires only structure. The old you needed motivation. The new you relies on standards. The old you sought belonging. The new you maintains alignment. This is why rebuilding had to be done alone. Because no one else could give you this authority. It had to be claimed, quietly, repeatedly, without witnesses. And now that it is claimed, it does not need reinforcement. It simply governs. You wake up and act. You face stress and remain steady. You make decisions and accept consequences. No drama, no self-talk, no collapse. This is what it means to be rebuilt, not transformed into something flashy, but stripped down to something solid. And here is the final truth to hold. The strongest man in the room is not the loudest, not the most impressive, not the most admired. It is the man who is no longer internally divided. No second guessing, no internal bargaining, no need to perform, just action aligned with principle. That man cannot be manipulated, cannot be rushed, cannot be pulled back, because there is nothing left to appeal to. The old you is gone not because you killed him violently, but because you stopped feeding him, and what is not fed eventually disappears. From here forward, you do not rebuild, you maintain. Maintenance is quieter than transformation, but far more powerful, because it lasts. Hold this posture, you have earned it, and from this point on, nothing external defines you. You move forward not as someone trying to become, but as someone who already is. Maintain the structure. The old you is gone. What you've just walked through is not motivation, it is not inspiration, it is not a temporary reset, it is a structural change. You learned that rebuilding yourself was never about becoming louder, happier, or more visible. It was about removing what made you weak, quietly, deliberately, and without permission. You separated from approval. You endured solitude. You eliminated weak habits. You built discipline in darkness. You detached from what pulled you backward. You held your structure under pressure. And finally, you let the need for a story die. That is not self-improvement. That is self-command. And here is the most important truth to remember going forward. The work is no longer dramatic. It is maintenance. Maintenance is waking up and doing what must be done. Again. Maintenance is choosing structure over mood. Again. Maintenance is protecting your standards when no one is watching. Again. This is where most people fall off. Not because it's hard, but because it's quiet. Do not make that mistake. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to announce change. You don't need validation for discipline. Your life will show it. If this message resonated, don't let it stay theoretical. Choose one discipline today and execute it without exception. Choose one distraction and remove it. Choose silence over explanation. And if you're committed to maintaining this standard, comment this below. I move in silence. I maintain my structure. Like the video if you're serious about living by principle. Subscribe if you're done with motivation and ready for control. Remember this. You are not rebuilding anymore. You are governing. And nothing is more powerful than a man who no longer negotiates with weakness.